The Justice League is similar to the Avengers, and even actually the inspiration behind the Avengers is an ensemble of all-star DC superheroes, just like the Avengers. And like the characters from the Marvel's Avengers, these heroes operate independently, but also come together as a superhero team to fight against formidable foes and challenges. The Justice League revived the Justice Society of America that fell out of popularity after the Second World War, like many other comic books and comic book characters. A few years later, sales of comics and comic books rose again and gave birth to new characters and new teams like the Justice League. The Justice League of America debuted in March of 1960 in the 28th issue of Brave and the Bold, and since then, it has appeared and spun many TV series, comic books, and movies. The idea of this fan fiction is to imagine if the Justice League had a civil war just like the Avengers had. How do you think the superhero team would have divided into factions? What do you think would have happened that could have caused such an opposite belief in ideology? Opposition so drastic that they would be willing to fight, and how would the fight have gone? Who would be on whose team, and who would have won? Let's find out in this DC fan fiction. It was a dark evening in Gotham, and the city was about to sleep under the watchful, patrolling eyes of Gotham's Dark Knight. The town had been quiet for the past few days because Batman had been very hard on crime. He had cracked down on undesirables, and even before they could make a move, he had managed to throw almost every crime brewing kingpin in either prison or the nut house, and making the streets as clean as they ever been in years. This was relatively easy because months before this, the primary source of Gotham's problems, the Clown Prince of Crime, had been away for months now in Blackgate, and it mainly was a marvel that he had not broken out till now. Other times had proven almost nothing could keep the Joker away from Gotham and crime for too long. But this particular night was tense. Batman had just received word that the Joker had broken out of Blackgate prison again and was on the prowl. Knowing the madman, Batman was expecting him to strike any time from now. It was the Joker's regular operations, with the expectation he could not resist patrolling the city, and even employed Alfred, that the other heroes that have operated in Gotham, to help patrol. The Joker might have been unpredictable, but one thing was immensely predictable about him, and that was the fact that the Joker was going to strike. He enjoyed it. He did horrible things to people for no reason, and there was absolutely no logic to anything he did, as brilliant of a man he was. The problem with the certainty of the Joker's attack was where and when he would attack. It didn't take long before Batman had received word from Alfred that the Joker was caught on tape attacking the school for blind orphans. He had them kidnapped to an unknown location and demanded a ransom to free them. In his defense, they couldn't see the joke coming, which meant they needed to go. Quickly, Batman mobilized his team, and under the watchful eyes of Alfred, they stormed the port where the Joker's transmission had been traced to. They deduced that it was where the Joker was supposed to have been holding the orphans. As soon as they got into the building, Alfred lost visual of them and quickly announced that he was blind. Visuals were gone, satellite images, CCTV live footage, everything was dead. They had been hacked and jammed, and only live footage had been cut off. It was a trap, and soon enough, he heard struggles, fighting, and screams over the radio, and suddenly silence. After a couple of minutes of not hearing any sounds, the footage returned. He saw the Batman and his other associate come out of the warehouse at the pier with the children released, but could not hear to confirm what was happening. He had assumed that he had rescued the kids and watched him put them into a truck, enter their various modes of transport, and leave towards the city. They moved until they had gotten to Gotham Square. Alfred, who was watching, kept trying to reach them and wondered what was going on. He knew more times than often the mission often took a weird turn, but this was too different. Was the Joker making them do this, or was Alfred intentionally not knowing? They got there and offloaded the truck filled with children without a word, while the citizens of Gotham that were present at the square captured the situation situation and praised them for being Gotham's protector and thanked them for rescuing the kidnapped children. Alfred began to suspect that something was wrong when Batman and the other heroes slowly lined up the children as the citizens clamoured around, trying to get a picture or take a video. Soon they had brought out guns, which at this point, the crowd began to go silent and drew back, wondering what the heroes were doing. To everyone's horror, they faced the children's execution style and opened fire at them. Their screams vibranted in the air, complementing with the sound of gunshots, bullet shells hitting the floor, the metallic smell of blood, and the medical laughter that came out from the Batman and the heroes. The confused crowd fell deadly silent and watched horrifically. As soon as the last body of children fell dead to the floor, the medical group turned into the crowd and slowly started to open fire. At this point, the people began to run. They screamed as bullets flew past them, and for some, ran through their bodies as they fell, toppled over each other, and stampeded, trying to escape the coming death. Many people had fallen dead, and so many more heavily injured. The carnage and the chaos were unending, and as soon as the people continued to run, the bullets didn't stop coming. Soon enough, the cops began to arrive, and Batman and the group of heroes with him proceeded to turn on them too, shooting at them sporadically. The cops and these rogue heroes exchanged fire as the heroes made their way, escaping. As they left, they were chased by the cops. Batman stood on one of the trucks and unmasked, revealing to be the Joker, before bringing out an RPG and firing it at the cop cars following them. Alfred immediately contacted the Justice League and informed them of the situation, how the Joker had pretended to be Batman and a group of other heroes and killed civilians while doing that. The Justice League immediately sprang into action, ignoring the fact that the Joker needed to be caught. The whole resources of the Justice League had gone to finding the real Batman and the heroes that have been with him that night. Superman was off-world with most of the heavy hitters of the League fighting an outwardly threat. It was left for the Flash and Cyborg to find Batman. After a few seconds, the Flash radioed in and said that he had found Batman and the group of heroes he was with, knocked out and restrained at Arkham Asylum. While everybody had been watching the fake Batman move to Gotham Square, the Joker had gotten another team to move the real Batman into Arkham Asylum. They dressed him and his people like the Joker himself and his goons, while Batman was still unconscious with the rest of the heroes and receiving treatment at the Watchtower. The world talked about the tragedy at Gotham Square, and the people protested. They didn't want heroes anymore, and they didn't want masks in their cities. There was no concrete way to tell who was a hero and a villain. It was a mask, and anybody could be a pretender, or maybe the hero can decide to do a crime and even assume another hero's identity later. Or perhaps the heroes and the villains were even the same people. The tragedy shocked the world and made everyone who saw it realize that they didn't know who their so-called heroes were. After receiving all the necessary information from the Justice League, Commissioner Gordon released a press conference, explained everything, and clarified the situation. He had said that the Joker had captured the real Batman and dressed like him to guarantee the evil they had seen that day, and the real Batman was currently receiving treatment for his injuries. But the press and the people wanted to know if this was going to happen again, and how the people were ever going to feel safe if any hero could be a villain at any point in time. Commissioner Gordon told them that he didn't have all the answers, and that the government was going to try its best to come up with solutions. And then he said to them that he was sure that this was never going to happen again, but he was very wrong. The Joker might have been insane, but he was a criminally insane genius. What he had done in Gotham was just the first phase of his plan to not only discredit Batman, but all of the heroes of the Justice League. A few weeks later, while the Joker himself was captured and locked up in Blackgate Prison, heroes, or at least villains, pretending to be heroes popped up all over the world. These villains dressed up as heroes and did horrible things. They killed people, robbed and kidnapped, all while wearing costumes of famous heroes. It was an epidemic.